Hello, welcome to our new segment on TJTV, and it's called Spray and Pray. We're going to be reviewing airsoft gear and airsoft guns. We're going to be reviewing the LCT AK-12, LCK-12 is what it's known as.
Wow, looking at the gun, I can already see you put in a sight, a foregrip, and I don't know what that is quite yet.
Well, we'll talk more about that in just a minute, but this is the tracer. This is what glows the BBs to make them glow as they shoot out of the barrel, so you can actually see where your BBs are going. And I'll talk more about it because specifically for this gun, it's a complicated step to find the parts and figure out what parts to use. So we'll talk more about that in just a minute. So to start off, we got the body of the gun, and this body is made out of full metal. It's solid, except the polymer stock, which I replaced a different one because of a few problems we had with the last one. The grip is polymer, and the upper handguard of the gun is also made out of polymer, but mainly the internals and the outer body is made out of full metal and the rails and all. This gun itself is very realistic. I had my father's friends take a look at it, and they are experts in firearms, and they themselves realized that there is almost no difference from the real thing to this, which makes it much more real when you're playing, and also is very good for simulations or whatever you want to use for it. Movie props, that's what we use it for as well.
So, what does this gun really come with normally when you unbox it without any tracers or sights or even a foregrip?
So it comes with this back sight, which is replicated off the real back sight of the AK-12. It comes with this muzzle attachment, which I failed to paint, but that's alright. It came with this spring. It shot over about 430 FPS, which is why we couldn't actually use it at our field. So we had to change it out with a new spring that shoots only about 350 FPS. It also came with this mag. It's replicated off the real one too, and it's capable of holding about 150 rounds. So we also got these mags because it only came with one mag. These are my personal preference high cap mags, and they are capable of holding about 300 rounds each. So buying extra mags is definitely a must with any airsoft gun. And it also came with this stock. This is what it originally came with, and this is the sling quick disconnect, which we bought multiple different pin sets off EVIKE, and is why we had to change out the stock. This is what it originally came with. It's polymer, and in order to connect a sling onto it, you have to put this into here. But it does not actually fit. It always keeps sliding out, but it actually does fit the real one.
Well, what are some base features you have on this AK-12?
Well, this gun is able to go into safe, full, and semi-auto. The bolt is non-functioning, but it's just there for looks, you know. This is the original rails. There's not much railing space on the sides, so you might need to buy an extension. It has a top and bottom rails, full rails, and it has this sling swivel on the front here.
Well, looking at the gun, I can honestly see how it may weigh you down a bit. Looking at the weight, what would you have to say about that?
Well, the gun itself weighs in at about 9 pounds. It's solid. It is made to replicate the real gun, and the real gun weighs about that same weight. It's not meant to be something like cheap plastic to keep it light. It's solid, you know. It's heavy duty.
Well, because it's so solid, does that mean the durability is improved in many drops or accidental slips? You may have it in still good condition?
Well, yes, because if this gun was made out of solid plastic, which, I mean, it's polymer, but it's basically the same thing. If you were to drop it, there's a high chance of it actually snapping or it wearing down a lot faster than metal. So this tracer here, it was a pain to buy, you know. It came with 4 separate pieces. It was just a lot of work, but it all eventually came in, and it all eventually started fitting. This gun originally does not come with a threaded barrel, so you have to buy all these parts in order to get the tracer unit on, and I'll put some of the parts in the description. So this is the first part you're going to need. This is to lock onto the smooth barrel there, and it's held in by a spring tensioned pin, which locks it there. And this part, this muzzle attachment here, originally was on this block here, but you need to take it off and replace it with this part. This has a bigger female threading on the back, so you could twist this on to the block here, and it has a smaller male threading to where you could actually put this onto the tracer on the back. Runnex attachment, I also added this front grip, which helps a lot with the heavy gun. And I added this floating dot sight here. This comes in pretty handy with the close quarters and all with the airsoft gun.
Well, this gun seems very impressive, but what about the price? How much is it?
This I got for $400 US at my local airsoft store. And this was a couple months ago, a couple months after the gun was launched, so this was fairly brand new. It still is brand new to this day. But I have seen prices go down to about $350, all the way up to like $500. So you just got to make sure you know where you're getting it. So I'm really happy with this gun, and I need to tell you about some of the downsides about this gun, especially with the battery. So this uses a 7.4 volt battery, and the biggest problem is that, as you can see here, there's almost like no space in it. You could barely even fit this in it. You really have to actually put a lot of pressure in order to keep this down on top of the battery. This gun, it's actually made to be using Tomahawk batteries, which it was very expensive compared to these ones. So if you're not planning on buying Tomahawk batteries and going cheap, just let you know, it's really hard to fit it in the gun. So yeah, the body itself's very nice. The gun is very nice as well. I'm just really glad with this gun. Although I also want to talk about how the gun short strokes a lot, which basically that means you can't rapid fire in semi-auto, because before the piston could get back, it is released from you releasing the trigger, and it gets locked, and it gets jammed. So it takes a lot of effort to actually fix it back to get to where you could actually shoot it again. But it's just one of the biggest problems that I face with the gun, which personally I am not sure if this is just with this gun or with all the other guns, but it's just something that it is a problem with this gun individually. And another cool feature on this gun here is that the stock is foldable, which this comes in handy when you're out in the field or using it in like a CQB kind of format, you know. So the parts that this came with is the Angel Custom 24mm to 14mm thread adapter. That's what this is. This is what you use to screw on all the threads to the actual block barrel itself. The next part is the LCT PK404 for the LCT AK-12 and 15 to an M24 muzzle thread adapter. And the tracer that I'm using is the EMG Strike Industry oppressor. And the biggest problem is that since it is negative, that means it screws on the opposite way. That when you screw this on and tighten it down, this will actually loosen because this threads on positive, which you just gotta be kind of noticeable of that and try to make sure they all are tightened down pretty evenly. This is an AK pattern magazine, which means that the magazines actually cradle in, which means it's only held in by 2 points, which it's not as sturdy as a standard M4 or any other type mag, which has a larger surface area of holding in the mags. But I have not actually had any problems with them themselves. And I recommend buying extra mags because the 150 round mag doesn't really get the job done, so I bought 2 high cap mags. but the biggest problem is that you always have to constantly wind up the mags to keep the bullets loaded in, but I much more prefer them than the original spring-loaded mags. And then you would load them up. I have this little flap here. You could put in about 400 rounds, I believe. To load up the spring mag, I have to use a speed loader here I got off EVIKE. It's just a pretty standard thing. You put it in here, and you would press it down to load it up. It's a lot easier than having to sit there and individually put each one in. So that about ends the video, but I would just like to say that I personally think that this is a great investment. With all the good parts about it, there are definitely some downfalls, but you know, I personally believe that's a very good gun, and it's very good for airsoft, and it's also a very good movie prop, which we'll leave the channel where we make our movies down in the description. So if you guys like our new segment about airsoft reviews and gun reviews, feel free to like the video and subscribe, and be sure to share us to others that are interested in buying this gun. And yeah, thank you.